Welcome to the Ketovangelist Kitchen. I'm Brian.
And I'm Carrie.
And this podcast is dedicated to making things simple and easy for you in the kitchen. Carrie Brown is a classically trained, world-class chef who has a passion for creating ketogenic recipes that taste better than anything you've ever experienced. But more than that, she loves teaching people how to cook the right way.
And each week on this podcast, Brian and I discuss all the ways you can create awesome keto food that is guaranteed to make you a rock star in the kitchen.
If you'd like to learn more about Ketovangelist Kitchen, you can go to KetoVangelistKitchen.com and sign up for the newsletter.
In exchange for your email address, you'll get brand new recipes delivered to your inbox, ready for you to whip up in the kitchen and enjoy with your friends and family.
So sit back, relax, and get ready to laugh and learn. You're about to enter the Ketovangelist Kitchen. All right, look alive. We got a lot of stuff to cover. We don't have a lot of time, and our guest is super busy. That's right.
I'm so excited.
We have another guest today. Carrie, you wanna get us started?
We have today an awesome man from the depths of Holiday, Tennessee, Dr. Ken Berry.
Hey, good morning, guys.
So I'm curious, how deep are the depths of Holiday, Tennessee? Is that what we're saying? Is the supposed name of this town?
People who live in the country think that I live in the country. That's how country Holiday, Tennessee is. Yeah.
That's when I was driving there the other week on the way back from KetoCon, I got off the freeway or the whatever main road I'd got there from Texas, and I'm going, oh, we're in the country now.
I live out in the country.
And then you kept going.
Yeah. I live out in the country, so I think I know what you're talking. And I grew up in Alabama for part of my childhood, so I'm pretty familiar.
You totally know.
Yeah. And I mean, the stereotypical joke would be when you take the exit, they have a stand that issues the banjos that you use to go wherever you got to go. So, and you're not allowed in unless you have one. Carrie might not get that joke.
Yeah,
but Dr. Berry gets that.
When you get off on my exit, there's a guy standing there, a homeless guy, and he gives you the roll down your window signal. When you do, he's like, "Are you sure this is the right exit?"
Right. Yeah.
So you're going to feel at home. You're going to feel right at home in Connecticut when you come up for Keto Fest, then, because I also live in the middle of nowhere in the country. So. Oh,
that's wonderful! I can't wait to get to Keto Fest and to see you again, Carrie, and to meet some new keto people.
Yep, it's going to be super fun. I didn't go last year because I was in Seattle, but I understand that the focus of Keto Fest is fun. So
yes,
well, and it should be. I mean, seriously, it should be.
If you're not having fun, what is the point?
Okay.
Well, festival's in the name, so
right. Yeah. All right. Enough of this chit chat. We got to get right to it. What are we talking about today?
Do it.
So I asked Dr. Berry if he would share his top 5 favorite keto foods and why.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's a great topic. Let's do it.
So now we want to take this from 5 to 1, or are they in are they in no particular order, or are we saying, they're just 5 of them? Like how we want to do this?
Well, if it was me,
Let's start with number 1.
Okay, start with
number 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now
I feel strongly about number 1.
Okay.
I'm passionate about number 1.
Right. And I'm glad that you're not as passionate about number 2, because that would be
I can get by on number 2, but number 1 is where it's at.
Right. All right. So what is the
that
first?
Sounded bad, didn't it? That's yeah.
Yes, it did. But hey, you live out in the country, so
And you're a doctor,
right? All right. So what's the first one?
Okay, so my number 1 favorite keto food is bacon, and I'm not even kidding, and I would be happy to tell you why it's bacon.
Please do.
Okay, so some people think bacon is pure fat, but bacon is actually a 1-to-1 ratio with protein and fats. We actually have a farmer friend out in the country who pasture raises a couple of pigs a year for us, so we have good grass-fed, acorn-fed, rubworm-fed pork in our deep freeze downstairs, and so our bacon is cured, but it's not processed, and so it's a different dimension of bacon that I get to enjoy because of that. And I know that might sound expensive to people, but really it's not. You can actually hay on your pig through the year. There's all kinds of different ways to do this. And if anybody's bought bacon at China Mart, you know that bacon's pretty darn expensive. And so it works out to almost the same cost if you get your own pig. And then you also have pork chops, you know, the rump, the loin, the roast, and all that other good stuff too in the freezer. And I also have him harvest all the organ meat for me as well. And so it winds up that and then I've got all the bones I have him harvest as well for my bone broth. And so my pastured pork bacon is absolutely my number one. And even if you can't afford that, even if you have to buy the cheap bacon at the store, I want you to realize that if you buy low carb bacon, that's good for you. That's not bad. And I have to say that even in the keto community, because a lot of people are still afraid of the whole nitrite issue.
So you said low carb bacon.
No, not low carb bacon.
Right.
No, absolutely not. I want it to be the fattest bacon that I can get my hands on. Low carb bacon if you buy it at the store. Yeah, if you buy it at the store, because many of the companies will put sugar. They'll use sugar in the curing process, which usually is not more than one gram of carbs per serving. But if you don't watch yourself, you can buy a more carby bacon. So want to get the one with the lowest carbs.
Right. I was just trying to clarify. I wanted to make sure that you didn't mean low fat bacon. And
no.
Okay.
Yeah. My favorite is turkey bacon. No,
yeah.
Not at all.
Right. Okay. Good. Because otherwise this call is over.
I'm working on a video for my YouTube channel about the nitrite issue.
Uh-huh.
And it's very convoluted. And actually, if you go back and look at all the research, I'm pulling a Gary Taubes, Nina Teichholz kind of deal here. The original study put out by MIT about the nitrite issue was basically made up.
Oh, yeah.
And it was not peer reviewed.
Right.
And then later it was very poorly done. And then later, about 1981, they went back and reviewed it, looked at it, and even the experts who were probably vegan said, we can't even recommend this study. This study is just trash.
Right.
It's worthless. And so much like the hypertension issue, much like the cholesterol issue, the kind of the beginning research on this topic was just crap. And so that leads the way for every other researcher to be able to build on that faulty foundation. And then now we have, vegans running around screaming about nitrates and nitrites and nitrosamines. And it's really all a fabrication. You actually have more nitrites in your saliva than you get in your food. If you're eating nothing but pure bacon, you make more nitrites than you eat in the bacon. And so pasture-raised pork bacon, it has vitamin D. It has a ton of omega-3s, DHA, EPA. I mean, it's got all the good quality fats that you need. And when you cook your pastured bacon, or even your cheap bacon, if you can't afford that, you get this treat. You get a gift from the bacon. You get bacon grease, which I hope you're catching and saving in a cute little container on your stove.
Right.
Because then you can use that to increase the beneficial fat in every other meal you prepare with just a tablespoon or two of that liquid gold bacon grease or lard. Then you can flavor everything, and even the most mundane vegetable becomes spectacular when you saute it in bacon grease. So bacon is number one, hands down, no doubt, for what it gives you and for what it does for you and for how it tastes.
So,
and even if you just, as Dr. Berry said, swapping your Little Debbie's cakes for bacon right there, even if it's not expensive bacon, do the best you can with what you have, because just that switch right there will be way, way, way better than what you're currently doing.
So I want to put some
thousands of times better.
I want to put some things into perspective for folks, especially for the vegans and vegetarians who make that argument about bacon and nitrates. Here's a list of vegetables that are high in nitrates: arugula, celery, cress, watercress, lettuce, beets, spinach, carrots.
Yes.
Let's see, Chinese cabbage, rhubarb, bok choy. So like the point here is, it's an arbitrary, it's an arbitrary, it's an argument that holds no water. So
exactly. And so never ever spend extra money for bacon that has a label on it that says nitrate free, because it also is not nitrate free. What they do is instead of using their original source of nitrates, they use either celery juice or beet juice to cure the bacon. Both of those are rich in, drumroll, nitrates.
Right.
That's where you get if you really want to eat a lot of nitrates, then eat arugula, eat beet greens, eat celery. They're full of nitrates. And I know all the vegans out there are going, what? Right. They are not. Google it, my friend.
I just also want to point out that China Mart is not an actual store where you can go buy Chinese things. Yeah. It is Walmart.
Yeah, that's kind of my euphemism for all the big box stores in the world. And I try not to call out brands by name, but if 90% of the merchandise you have for sale comes from China, then that makes you China Mart. So you should be proud and own the name.
Right. Own the name. Okay. What's
own it.
What's the second one? What's the second food?
So my second favorite keto food, and you may notice there's a lot of meat on my list, and that's because for the last few months I've been really experimenting with a carnivore diet or a meat-heavy keto. And so number 2 for me is the cheapest, fattest ground beef you can find at the store, which is usually 70-30 protein to fat. Right. And sometimes I can get the butcher at my local grocery to make it even fatter than that. And so that's my second favorite. You can add herbs and spices. I know Carrie is the master at enhancing and bringing out flavor in food. And you can take just the plain cheapest hamburger you can find, and with a few herbs and spices, you can make it magical. And for the last few months, like I mentioned, I've been eating carnivore, and I have yet to get bored with my limited meat diet. And I don't even really branch out into the other meats. I have a few favorites that I love, and that's just what I eat. And I never, when I sit down to a steaming, aroma-filled plate of meat, I never feel left out, or I never feel deprived.
You're making us all hungry.
Right.
Right? Exactly.
So now I will say this: there's one place that you can order that I have found online that U.S. Wellness Meats sells a 55-45 blend of fatty ground beef. It has a very unique consistency too. It is not like, you have to be prepared for not what you're used to when it comes to eating ground beef. It is very high in fat. So, other than that, yeah, generally it's 80-20, or sometimes you can get 70-30. But if you know your cowmonger at your local food constabulary, you may be able to talk them into grinding some stuff up, or you can talk them into giving you, because they've got no use for it. They'll give you some tallow if they've got it. You can just get that, and you can render it down yourself, and you can add it to whatever you want.
Yeah, and that also is an excellent cooking oil.
Right.
You'll often find that if you ask your butcher, if you have someone that will grind it up for you, that they'll actually charge you less per pound, because they're throwing in, as Brian says, they're throwing in extra fat, which is just waste to them. So I haven't found a butcher here yet in Connecticut, but I remember the butcher that I went to in Seattle and talked about it to. He was like the everything where I didn't want the things trimmed. I wanted all the fat on. He was charging me, I think, $2 a pound less than the trimmed versions. And I can't remember what the price on the ground beef was, but if he made it like a 60-40, and he said, I can make it whatever you want, then that was actually cheaper too. So if you're on a tight budget, you're just winning all around there. You get the extra fat you need, and of course the extra flavor, because that's where the flavor is, but you're spending even less money.
Exactly. And so many people, when they look at ground beef, they're like, ooh, my budget is what it is. But this meat, obviously, this ground beef, this 80-20 has to be a better quality because it costs more, right? Because that's how the Western mind thinks.
Right.
But actually, no, it's no better quality. It's just got more lean meat and less fat. And so if that's, if you want ground sirloin or ground chuck, then go for it. But why? Why would you not want a cheaper meat that is just as good a quality and has a higher fat content? That's going to help you with your macros. That's going to make your meat taste better. And then again, the meat gives you this magic gift. When you're finished cooking it, you get to save the tallow for the next meal.
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes.
All right. What's number 3?
Okay. Number 3, and this is a nasty one, but number 3 is sardines. and I have very specific reasons for that. I used to hate the taste. When I was a child, my grandfather would open a can of sardines at the table, and I would have to literally leave the house.
Mm-hmm.
The smell of the sardines, I don't know why. I was very sensitive to smells as a child. And I couldn't even sit at the table while he was eating sardines. But now, with some really tasty low carb mustard on my sardines, I can eat 2 or 3 cans, and often that'll be my lunch. But I have to go outside to eat them because my sweet wife Nisha is very sensitive to the smell of sardines. I can't eat them in the house. Even if she's not home, when she comes home, I get the face and the what the heck.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to eat them outside, or I have to eat them at work.
Maybe next week, Ken, when you're here, you and I'll have to sneak out onto the deck and have a bit of a sardine fest, and we'll leave Nisha in the night.
Most people
something else yummy.
Yes. Most people sneak out for a smoke. We'll sneak out for some sardines.
So, Carrie, you don't call them sardines, though. You have another name for them.
No, we call them sardines.
Oh, okay, so it's another fish that you've lumped in there? Because when we talked about sardines, you called them something else.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's a bunch of weird kind of British names for them that they're all, but yeah, no, sardines.
What's the weird British name?
We're big fans of sardines on this podcast. We're big fans.
Yeah, so
let's talk about the nutrition of sardines.
Go ahead.
So sardines are a cold water fish. There are no sardine farms in China because sardines are so tiny. There's no profit to be made. So they will raise tilapia. They'll raise, in terrible conditions. They'll raise any of the bigger fish because you can cut off huge slabs of those, flash freeze them, put them on a huge cargo ship and ship them over here and make a profit. But you can't do that with sardines. You can't do that with anchovies. You can't do that with herring. They're just a small fish, and so they're still wild caught. And they're not predator fish, so they don't get the buildup of mercury. So sardines are still a very low mercury ocean fish. They have an amazing amount of omega-3s, DHA, EPA, and they're full of good nutrition. And when you eat sardines, you actually eat their bones as well. You eat the spine and the ribs, and so you're actually getting all kinds of useful collagen from that as well, because you're actually eating the skeletal system and all the ligaments and all the cartilage as well as fish itself.
So I think I couldn't remember when you said what's the other name. It fell out of my mind, but you're thinking of pilchard. That's what we call them in England.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And so if you love sardines, I want you to stop being ashamed of that. I want you to come out of the closet. Right. I want you to yell to the world that you love sardines, damn it. And that's just how it's going to be, because sardines are literally a superfood.
They're also fantastic for traveling with.
Yes.
They're well, if you open up a can on a plane, I'm not sure you'd be so popular. But if you're road tripping in a car, or you're road tripping, like, maybe in the open airport, not on a plane, that absolutely sardines are my go-to road trip food. So when I drove down to KETOCon the other week, I had 3 cans of sardines for every day I was on the road with me, because they're absolutely fabulous for road tripping, and you really don't need anything else other than some mineral water or some water with electrolytes and sardines, and you're good.
Yeah, I think that's a great travel hack. A lot of times I'll fast on the day of the trip, and because none of the plane food is worthy of even ingesting. But I could imagine, Carrie, that if you pulled out a can of sardines on a full flight, the undercover TSA agent would probably take out his zip ties at that point. You would probably be in trouble.
Especially the way she eats them. She eats them like in a curry sauce, so it makes it even better.
Oh! I bet that stinks so good.
All right.
I've taken a lot of things on planes, but I haven't actually been brave enough to take sardines yet. And I got to say that I fly. If I can drive, I won't fly. So I'm
sure some people would consider. I'm sure there are a large percentage of people on the plane that would consider sardines a weapon of mass destruction. You would probably get yelled at if you open sardines on a plane. Yeah.
Yeah, thankfully for the other air travelers, I don't fly it much. I always drive if I can. So, but anyway, we're big fans of sardines on this podcast. So that makes me super, super happy that it's not your number 3.
Okay, I have some questions. Because Carrie and I have done an episode on sardines. And so you said mustard would go with it. Do you eat it with anything else? Do you mostly, because so the can that I usually buy is in olive oil and it has jalapenos in it, right? So I get a little bit of kick to it. So do you have a preference aside from just the possibility? I'm not a fan of mustard, so I'm trying to give options that are other than that. So if you have anything else, is there another way?
Probably Carrie would be your go-to for that. You would want because sardines have such a strong flavor and strong odor that I'll be honest, it's still a learning curve for me eating sardines. Actually, the first few times as an adult, I made myself eat them after I'd read a couple of articles. I'm like, crap, these are a superfood. I mean, like they are a literal keto superfood. When you look at the nutrition and look at what you're actually eating, I mean, it's like a gift from nature. It's what sardines are. And so I use the mustard as a olfactory camouflage and as a gustatory camouflage because I still don't love the taste of them. But tell us, Carrie, you're the expert on this. What else can we disguise the flavor of sardines with?
So, and I think Brian and I talked about this on our sardine podcast, which was a while ago now. But when I was a kid growing up in England, sardines were a big thing. Pilchards, a big thing. And one of my favorite ways was you could actually get them canned in tomato sauce.
Oh yeah,
so
that's right.
And I haven't, and we talked about it, and a bunch of people in America said, yes, you can still get them here in tomato sauce, but I haven't found anywhere local.
Oh, here's why. I know. Here's why you haven't been able to, because it's pronounced tomato. That's why you're looking for the wrong thing.
Yeah, the guy at the store's like, huh?
What?
What?
Yeah.
No, we don't have that.
Sardines, and actually I have up on the Ketovangelist Kitchen website, I actually have a recipe as such for sardine salad, and that has tomatoes in. So my go-to thing for going with sardines is tomatoes. And if you can find them in a can with tomato sauce, obviously you need to check for sugars, because manufacturers will often toss a bunch of sugar into anything that has tomatoes. So check the label, always check the label. But if you can find sardines canned with tomato sauce, that's a fabulous way to go.
Now, if you're from the South, and Dr. Barry can attest to this, right? It's going to be Mater sauce. So it's not going to be, it's just going to be, you're going to have fish and Mater sauce. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Right?
Many words in the South have the letter R at the end, even though they shouldn't.
Right.
In the rest of the country, the R is not required or even desired. But in the South, often you need the R to be understood. Yeah. And so another way that sardines are great, Carrie already talked about travel, but I have a lot of guys who are more, into the really outdoors, really heavy physical stuff. And they're always asking me, what's a good keto-friendly food that I can take in I'm going on a week-long hike. Mm-hmm. I'm going to be, hiking the Himalayas or whatever. I mean, Carrie can tell you it's perfect. Just fill up your bag with sardine cans because they last forever. I don't even know if they have an expiration date. I don't even know if bacteria will eat them. They stink so bad. Right. But I mean, it would protect you from wildlife because the smell would keep all the wildlife away. But then also you've got the perfect keto food and you didn't have to break your diet just because you're out on a mountain or you're, because a lot of people think, I have to have granola because going on a hike. It's required. No, you don't. Take sardines. You'll continue to be fat adapted and you'll be burning fat on your hikes instead of burning carbs.
And you can also fashion a spoon out of the lid.
That's so exactly. Now, see, that's a true
utensils.
Yes, that is a true sardine connoisseur who knows this.
Right. Okay. Then, all right. What's number 4?
Okay, number 4. We're gonna get off the meat for a minute, and we're gonna go with raw spinach.
Okay,
that's going to be my number 4 because you can put it in literally everything. You can put it in or on anything. You can saute raw spinach leaves in bacon grease or in tallow, and spice them up, and they are delicious. And the volume shrinks considerably, so you can eat a substantial amount of veg without really having a huge portion on your plate. Often, you buy them from China Mart in these big plastic containers, and once you've sautéed them, what look like 2 gallons of sardine leaves of spinach leaves then becomes maybe a cup of sautéed wilted greens, full of good vitamins and minerals and very low carb. And there you go. If you feel the need that you have to have something green on your plate, spinach leaves sautéed in some kind of good healthy fat, it's hard to beat that.
It's amazing how much spinach, and spinach is very nutrient dense. It's amazing how much spinach you can eat if you saute it.
Yes.
No,
absolutely amazing.
It really isn't, because it's still zero. I don't care how you prepare it. Okay.
And so you've tried it sauteed in bacon grease with some salt and pepper and some good, I like putting curry powder or turmeric. I'll put turmeric on it, and that's delicious as well.
You're outnumbered here, Brian. You're 2-1. So you're batting on a sticky wicket here.
Yeah,
you need to stop while you're not ahead.
That's right. Well, I'm always, not ahead. So I'm used to this position, but, yeah. So here's the only thing I got going for me with spinach, and that is, Popeye's a big fan, and I think Popeye's a stand-up guy. So that's about where I am on it. Now, I grew up eating it out of a can, and that stuff is terrible.
Right.
So
it's awful. Yeah, it's terrible.
So, now Sherry, my wife, loves spinach. She absolutely loves it. She likes it raw. She likes it sauteed. She has a weird thing for vegetables. So, I get that it's a thing, but still, spinach is what my food
But now
is.
here's the reason I said raw spinach is, and here's why. It has literally no taste of its own. And so
right.
for everyone out there like Brian, I'll tell you a secret that my teenage daughters, they don't know this. But for years, I would make them a smoothie in the morning.
Oh, no.
And I would put in their smoothie, I would put a couple of drops of iodine. I would put a raw egg, and I would put a handful of raw spinach greens.
And they never knew, did they?
They had no clue that they were eating a raw egg and some uncooked spinach. And they would be like, "Why is the smoothie green, Dad?" And I'd be like, "I think it's the blueberries must do that. I don't know. It's good though, isn't it?" They're like, "Yeah, it tastes great." And so they've had so many servings of raw spinach and had no idea. And so that's a ninja level keto move in the kitchen. And so for everybody out there who has a spouse who hates spinach, now you can put a little spinach in anything, and as long as you don't say there's spinach in there, no one's going to know.
Even though if you do an omelet and you just toss a handful of spinach in the middle with all your other fixings before you flip it over, you cannot taste the spinach. So
no, exactly right.
You just can't.
Okay.
So just add the spinach.
I have a couple of points that I want to make, and we can move on. First,
no spinach.
First, the fact that it has no flavor is part of the problem for me, because my brain says something's in your mouth, but I don't know what it is because it has no flavor, but I know something's there. Then the other thing is, the name of blueberries is a dead giveaway that it's not making it green. So I'm really curious, how did you pull that Jedi mind trick off? It's clear.
It just worked. I don't know. I don't know. It just worked. And so it tastes, the smoothie was so good that they loved it. And they didn't care that it was green.
They were just willing to be like, all right, that's good. That's sufficient. All right, that's good. That's excellent. That's good tips right there. Hopefully Sherry won't follow your advice.
You're in trouble now. Yeah. If she's listening, she's like, I
don't like where this is going.
Now it's on.
Yeah, I don't like where this is going. All right. What's the fifth one? What's number 5?
Okay. So number 5 is kind of a food group instead of an individual food, and it's herbs, which Carrie may pronounce herbs. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I really liked you before we started, and now I'm like the biggest fan now, because it's just like you're just checking all my boxes here.
And we did not discuss this before the podcast, Brian. So if you're feeling ostracized right now, I promise this was not premeditated in any way.
No, it seriously wasn't.
That's perfectly okay. I'm perfectly secure in my insecurities. So
you then Dr. Berry, I have the only thing I've been able to grow since I moved to Connecticut is herbs. So I got quite the herb garden going on out the back there. So you can go bury your head in there and sniff all the goodness.
Yes. And I don't know if I was able to, I think you came to the house after dark, so I wasn't able to take you on the garden tour. But the reason I picked herbs on my top 5 list is because I'm very insulin resistant and I can't eat the amount of carbs that even a normal keto fan can eat, or I'll stall, I'll gain weight. And so I need my greens. I need my veg to be as nutrient dense as it can possibly be. And it's hard to get more nutrient dense than herbs. And also, Nisha and I both love fresh produce, and we love to raise things like that. But there are 2 problems with that for us. Number one is we hate gardening. For me, gardening, the word gardening, that's a synonym for work.
Yep,
because when I grew up, my grandparents had a huge garden every year, and there were plows involved and tillers and tractors and hoes. If you guys don't know what a hoe is, that's an instrument of torture.
Yep.
There were rakes and shovels, and that's just work for a kid growing up. And so I have this negative connotation with classical gardening. And so I do square foot gardening and container gardening at my house. And so on our side porch, Carrie, that you came up on, you could probably see the planters, but you couldn't see what was in them. We have.
I was running so fast to get out of the torrential rain that I noticed nothing.
Yes. So we have on our side porch, we have basil growing, which I think Carrie will call basil.
Yes.
Basil?
We have, we have thyme, we have rosemary, we have astragalus, we have sage, we have chives growing literally everywhere. And then mint growing everywhere, because people who garden know that chives and mint are a weed. Like once you plant them, they just never stop.
Right.
Your entire property is covered.
You got to have your mint. You got to have your mint in a tub, because otherwise it will take over all your land.
You will have you'll have a mint pasture. That's what you'll have. Your cows will have to eat mint because it'll take over the entire pasture. And so anytime we cook, I literally can walk out on the side porch and pick any of these herbs and chop them up and have immediate seasoning, but also have the bountiful nutrition that are in the leaves of herbs. And I'll tell you, I have this theory. I mean, everybody thinks they know what's in their food, but it's my theory that there are phytonutrients in fresh picked greens of any kind, including herbs, that nutrition science hasn't even discovered yet. Because I think after that herb leaf has sit in a warehouse for a few weeks, even at a low temperature, I think a lot of these phytonutrients just break down and disappear, and you just don't know about them. I think there's magic in picking fresh spinach or fresh herbs and using those immediately from the porch to the kitchen. I think there's magic in that we don't even know about yet.
So here's a fascinating fact that I learned last weekend about cows and mint. And I know Brian will be riveted to know this. So on Saturday, I went up to Massachusetts to Whartleberry to visit a cow farm. And one of the things that Joan...
Those are also known as ranches, by the way.
Oh, whatever they're called. A place where you grow cows.
Yes. You got to feed and water them, and they'll grow like weeds.
Anyway, so Joan, who raises these cows for beef, she was telling me that they put mint extract in the cow's food, because when they eat mint, it helps to keep the flies away. Mm-hmm. So if you had cows, you would not want to put your mint in containers. You'd want to have a mint pasture so your cows could eat it, because it helps keep the flies away.
I am just fascinated by the idea. I'm fascinated by the idea of having a pre-seasoned steak. Having it have a little hint of mint to it.
Right.
I would like that a lot.
Right. Very, very good idea.
Now, are there any herbs that you would not recommend people consume?
Not really.
No?
Not really. Nisha's favorite is dill, and we have also dill growing everywhere. And another thing, I bet Carrie's familiar with this, but so many people have no clue what this is. It's called Purslane. And I found it from a seed catalog called Baker's Creek Heirloom Seeds. And the reason I want to give this guy a shout out is because 100% of his seeds are non-GMO and they're heirloom seeds. Like some of his are like, oh, we found this watermelon or whatever came from an 1802 seed catalog, and they literally grow enough every year so that they're preserving these heirloom seeds, which I believe those kinds of plants have more nutrients than the GMO seed, right? When the finished product is on the plate, I think it's healthier. And so I buy all my seeds from Baker's Creek Heirloom Seeds, and I didn't know what Purslane was, Carrie, and so I grew it, and it's this delicious, minty, almost succulent little green that you can chop up and put in salads, and it immediately changes the character and the flavor. And it's just the most delicious thing. And I think it has almost more omega-3s than any other vegetable on the planet.
I was
very,
just going to
very
say,
nutritious.
I was just going to say it's a great source of omega-3 fatty acids. But it's something I've never used, but I'm going to have to now. Thank you. Giving me
Oh, it's so tasty. And all of these herbs, the number 2 reason that we grow only herbs on the berry farm is because we have peacocks, and peacocks are like velociraptors when it comes to any kind of other vegetable that you grow. They will eat your entire garden. And so we have to be very careful. They won't eat herbs, but they'll eat any other green. If you try to grow kale or broccoli or any of that, it never gets more than an inch tall. The peacocks take care of it. So I just gave up, and I just decided to grow only mint, because mint, or not mint, but herbs. Herbs are weeds. They come back from seed every year. You don't have to really do any work. Once you have your herb garden established, it kind of takes care of itself, which is nice. But for people who hate to garden, you can still get all the benefits of all the nutrients in the herbs without doing a lot of work out in the garden.
I mean,
for me too. I find that the packets of herbs you get in the store, the fresh herbs, are so expensive. I mean, you're dropping like $2.50 to $3. And if you don't use it up all at once, once you've opened that packet, it's gone. And for me too, now I live in the middle of nowhere. I'll be doing something and I'm like, oh, I need, this herb or that herb. And of course, it's an hour round trip for me to go anywhere to get them. So I'm all about growing I always have been, but particularly now, it's so cool to just open the back door and harvest fresh things and chop them and eat them. It's just so, I'm a huge herb garden fan.
I would just
it really is an amazing thing. And if people are concerned about price, if you're broke as a joke like I used to be, you can buy a pack of, let's say, sage from Baker's Creek for $1.89. And then for the next 50 years, you've got sage. You've got fresh sage anytime you want it. And sage is very hardy. Maybe only 2 months out of the year, I won't have some sage growing in the yard or in the garden. And so for that, that $1.80 investment turns into, if you count the cost of sage, like what Carrie was talking about, when you buy those tiny packets in the grocery, you'll probably get $50,000 worth of sage out of that $1.80 packet.
Yep.
I would just like to petition making peacocks as man's best friend, given their behavior toward vegetables. Because they're helping us. They're preventing us from being subjected to that sort of thing. So I have a question for you, Dr. Berry. We've in times past, we've experimented with growing different kinds of gardens. Do you notice like a tremendous amount of butterflies whenever you grow dill?
Yes, definitely. Lots of butterflies and also lots of insects for the peacocks to eat off the dill while carefully not eating the dill.
Right, because they're no chumps. They know what they're doing. We found like it was weird. Because we grew dill for a little while. Like butterflies out the wazoo. For some reason, they really, really like dill plants. So if you like butterflies, I mean, that's just another thing. I mean, I don't know why people like butterflies, but some people do. I love
it that you love butterflies, Brian.
I'm not saying I do. I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying it's an unintended consequence. I do like the idea of a death's head moth, which is really, really interesting because somehow nature decided to draw a skull in the back of a moth. Like it's like it's the punk rock of the moth butterfly world. Just want to say.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the top 5. Let's recap. Number 1, bacon.
Yes.
Number 2, ground beef. Number 3 is sardines. Number 4
yes.
is I forget number 4. What was it?
Spinach.
Oh, that's
raw
right.
spinach. Raw spinach.
Right.
Raw spinach. Not canned spinach.
You didn't forget the spinach. You just didn't want to say the word.
So true. And number 5.
That was convenient that you forgot number 4.
That's right. And number 5 is herbs. Not peaches, just herbs.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it would be possible then to concoct a meal with all of those ingredients, and you would have Dr. Berry's power meal, right?
I guess you could. I would probably not include spinach in any meaningful way with number 1, 2, and 3. I can't imagine. I'm sure Carrie could whip something up with her culinary magic that would be delicious, but I can't imagine using number 1, 2, and 3 with, or number 1 and 2 with number 3. That I don't know. Maybe. What do you think, Carrie?
Well, I was just sitting here thinking, my sardine salad is based on spinach, so that would work.
Okay.
And what you could do is you could saute that spinach down in some bacon grease and then add it to your ground beef. That wouldn't be horrible at all. And that would...
no, I agree. I just can't imagine using the sardines directly with the bacon or the
I think the sardines is the outlier here, but 1, 2, 4, and 5, we could totally make a dish of something yummy with everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So here's my suggestion.
Yeah.
We're gonna bacon wrap some sardines, and we're going to create. Ooh. We're going to use the ground beef to create, and the spinach and the herbs to create a tomato sauce, and we can ladle that over the bacon wrap sardines.
There you go. Now you're getting fancy.
Right.
So you could bacon wrap some sardines and then drop that in the Fry Daddy filled with bacon grease.
I'm listening. Go on.
Then that could be an appetizer before your hamburger with spinach and herbs.
That's right.
There you go. You got all 5. Yeah, you got it. That's it.
Or you could actually make a pizza crust with the sardines like they do with mackerel. You could just chop it up, mix it in, and now you can throw some ground beef and bacon on top of that with some spinach.
Interesting.
We have just mastered the culinary world. If I had a mic to drop, because mine's attached, I can't actually drop it. I would totally drop the mic.
Don't drop it. It looked expensive. Don't drop that mic.
That's right. It is.
But this top 5 list, this actually mirrors my percentages of food intake. Like these 5 things probably make up 85% of my total dietary intake.
So you walk the walk.
Oh, this is it. This is what if you add ribeye, if I could have a number 6 and it'd be ribeye, and a number 7 and that be lamb chops, then you've got 95% of my entire dietary intake over a month's time.
So here's the thing, and you mentioned this a little bit earlier when you said you're experimenting with the carnivore thing. I don't consider what the list that you just provided as any sort of like deprived list or limited menu, right? Because the only thing you're limited by is your willingness to be creative and try stuff. And of course, this is coming from me, and I can eat the same thing every day or repeatedly without. I don't care. I have zero need to vary. If I find something that I like, I'm just going to keep eating that. But my point is, you don't. Yes. I mean, even I, who don't even try to do stuff, can come up with some alternative variations using the same exact stuff. So if I, who am barely above an idiot, can do it, then you guys can too. Is what I'm saying.
Absolutely. And the standard American eats chicken strips and ketchup, and if they were honest, their diet is very, very restrictive because they eat chicken strips and ketchup 9 meals out of 10. Mm-hmm. And so it's very common complaint with keto or carnivore. Oh, it's so restrictive. I could never stick to that. I would get bored. And that's coming from somebody who's eaten chicken strips and ketchup 9 out of the last 10 meals.
Right. Totally agree. I mean, that's part of the problem is people, it's an excuse, right? If you look at someone's standard menu, right, what they typically eat, it's going to be the same foods repeated over and over again. But for some reason, their menu is not limited. But when you remove carbs, now their menu is limited. And it boggles my mind, that line of thinking. All right, Carrie, where are we going from here? Because we're going to run long on time, I think. And Dr. Berry's super busy.
So we got about 10 minutes. I thought it would be cool because there are other things that are really, really great for keto. So Dr. Berry, if you're talking to someone who's brand new to keto, what would you say were the top 5 foods you would have them focus on? Which of course may be different from what you personally enjoy eating the most, but where would you, top 5 things you would say, okay, you're going keto, concentrate on these?
So I always try to talk about keto from a cost-conscious perspective, because there are many people out there whose food budget is limited, and I get that, and that's why I always try to talk about the cheaper alternatives. And I literally do walk the talk, Brian. I mean, this is what I eat every day,
right.
And you can tell the way I do my diet. None of this stuff is expensive. I mean, at this point, my herbs are basically free,
right.
because I bought a pack for $2. Probably 5 years ago now, because I bought this property 6 years ago. And so, yeah, my herbs are free, and all this other stuff is very inexpensive. And so this is literally the things that I recommend that you eat. There's no point. You do not have to buy grass-fed, grass-finished, panda massage, anything. You don't have to spend a lot of money to eat a good, healthy, whole food ketogenic diet. And I think my top 5 and even my top 6 proves that, because very often you can go to China Mart, the big box stores, and you can find ribeye on sale. You can buy, get 10 and get 10 free, or find it half price. If it's, if it's been on the shelf a little too long, they'll slash the price. And so if you have a deep freeze, then you can buy good quality fatty beef and pork at a huge discount when you find it on sale, and then you can bring it out of the freezer as you need it. And so never do I think keto, it never has to be expensive unless you're just trying to eat a lot of keto products. Then it can become very expensive. Or if you're trying to venture off into the rarefied, organic, panda massage realm, then you can get very, very expensive. I saw some sockeye salmon at Whole Foods the other day that was $19 for 4 ounces. And,
wow.
That's ridiculous to me. I don't care, if I have 5 best-selling books and just fill in the blank like money to burn, I would still wouldn't buy that just on principle, because I'm a poor Southern boy at heart, and that offends me that costs that much.
I'm the same, and I love smoked salmon. But I am only buying smoked salmon if it's, I remember going to Costco when I first moved to Connecticut, and it was like $12 a pound, which is still a lot. I mean, that's up there with the best grass-fed ribeye.
Yes.
But I bought a bunch because, of course, smoked salmon will keep forever, has a very, very long life. So I was there at Costco with, I was buying loads of it, because at $12 a pound, you never see it for that. But I only buy it when it's on the super sales, because it is so expensive. It's also really good for you. But as I say, I do a lot of bulk buying of the more expensive things to keep it more affordable on an ongoing basis.
Exactly right. And I would give 2 resources. I'm going to have a YouTube video up within the week about nitrates and nitrites. So if anybody listening is worried about the nitrate issue, you can check out my YouTube video that'll be up sometime in early July. Or you can check out a great article by Chris Kresser, and he really destroys the nitrate issue in his article. If you just Google Chris Kresser nitrates, it'll pop up number 1. That's the first resource if you have any fear of eating meat because of the nitrite issue, read Chris Kresser's article, or just look at my YouTube video when it's up. Number 2, if you're worried about eating meat as being harmful to our planet or depleting our resources or any of that kind of foolishness, then check out Peter Ballerstatd on Twitter. And I'm sure he has a blog where he writes at length about cattle and ruminants, all the ruminants, not just cattle, but all the ruminants, which are cows and goats and other tasty animals, and how it's good for the planet for them to eat grass. It's actually a good thing to grow and to eat animals for our planet. The vegans get really triggered by this sort of conversation, and they start talking about resource depletion and et cetera, et cetera. but actually ruminants are better for the planet than growing large fields of grain.
So, just a couple of points. Dr. Ballerstad's website, he's got a blog. It's called Grass-Based Health. So, and you can
beautiful.
If you just search for Grass-Based Health, you can find it. There's also a book written by a former vegan who is an environmentalist, and I believe it's called The Vegetarian Myth. And I mean, it's not strictly solely about that subject per se. She's very adamant about her political views, so there's a lot of political other stuff, but it provides a really well done argument from a former vegan's perspective about why animals are really better for the environment. Eating animals is really better for the environment. So that's another,
exactly.
if you're interested in that sort of thing. Okay.
We love Peter. And also, Peter is funny as heck.
Yeah.
I met him face to face for the first time at KetoCon in Austin a few weeks back. He's adorable. He's so funny. I just love him. And I'm super excited to see him again next week at Keto Fest.
Yeah, I love following him on Twitter because with just a few sarcastic words, he can smack down the most preeminent vegan. I mean, he can just close the door on any argument with just a very few sentences.
Right.
And so I love following him on Twitter because he'll smack you down, and you might not even know immediately that you got smacked down because he's such a gentleman.
Right.
And he's so sarcastic, it might take you a minute to realize that he just ate your lunch and hit you with the pail.
Not a big surprise that you like that sort of thing. Just saying. Just making an observation.
Odd that I like him, right? Very odd. Exactly.
All right. So, so you have a YouTube channel. What's the best way for someone to find that? And is there anything else? Do you have an Instagram or a Twitter for someone else to follow you, Dr. Barry, if they haven't done so already?
Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel, and I think if you just go to YouTube and search for Dr. Barry or Dr. Barry Keto, I think I pop up pretty high on the list. I've got an Instagram, which I play with quite a bit, which is my handle is Ken D. Barry MD. But I think if you just search for me or Nisha Loves It, you'll find us. And then we're always putting out pithy, sardonic, sarcastic posts that try to help people, but at the same time try to tongue-in-cheek kind of make fun of the people who are pretending to help people but really aren't helping at all. I have a pretty active Facebook page as well. If you just search for Dr. Barry, I think that pops up pretty high. And then good news, I just signed a contract with Victory Belt Publishing, and they are going to take my book that I wrote and self-published, Lies My Doctor Told Me, and they're going to put out a beautified second edition. And then at some point, quickly after that, the Audible version will be released of Lies My Doctor Told Me, and it will be read by the Right Honorable Carl Franklin, who some of you guys may have heard of. And so Carl Franklin will be the voice of Lies My Doctor Told Me. And so I'm really excited about that stuff as well.
We love Carl too.
Awesome.
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Barry, thanks so much for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
A lot of great information.
It was a great pleasure. Thanks so much, Brian and Carrie. I love you guys, and I can't wait to see you again.
People get like that with us. They just love seeing us.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Just kidding. You're awesome. We really appreciate it. Carrie, what's the final word?
Eat bacon, eat ground beef.
Yes.
Sardines,
eat your
especially
meat
when you're traveling. Eat spinach and eat all the herbs and go out. Your challenge for this week is to go out and find some purslane. And if you can't find it in the stores, buy a packet of seeds and a little pot of dirt and grow some.
Absolutely. Right. Hashtag eat your meat.
That's right. Right. Exactly. All right. There you go. Thanks everyone. Carrie, I guess I'll talk to you next week.
See ya.